Gratitude is not something that comes automatically when life is easy, and it is not something that only surfaces when everything aligns perfectly. It is a decision, a deliberate act of the heart, a choice you make even when circumstances scream otherwise. Too many people wait for the perfect moment to say thank you. They wait until the bills are paid, the pain is gone, the heart attack has healed, and the victory has been won. But the truth is, life will rarely wait until you feel ready. Storms will come, trials will rise, disappointments will knock at your door. And it is in those very moments when life seems unfair or heavy that gratitude must rise. Choosing to give thanks is not about ignoring reality. It is about acknowledging a higher truth, a divine presence that is greater than the problems you face. It is about declaring, even in the midst of struggle, that you believe something beyond what you see. When you choose gratitude, you are exercising faith. You are saying, I may not understand everything, I may not see the way forward, but I trust that God is with me and I will give thanks anyway. This is not a passive act. It is active, intentional, and courageous. It requires a mind and heart willing to rise above the noise of fear, anger, and frustration. You do not give thanks because everything is perfect. You give thanks because there is always a reason to hope, always a reason to believe, always a reason to lift your eyes toward the source of all life and goodness. Gratitude is a declaration that you are not defined by your circumstances, but by your trust in a higher power. Many people fail to experience the peace and blessings that come from thankfulness because they make it conditional. They say, I will be grateful when my life is easier, or I will give thanks when my situation improves. But life does not guarantee ease, and conditions will never perfectly align. When you make gratitude conditional, you tie your peace to the instability of the world, and the world will always disappoint. But when you choose to give thanks in every situation, you unlock a power that is not dependent on circumstances. You create a spiritual posture that no trial can overturn, a mindset that fear cannot shake, and a heart that refuses to be defeated. Choosing gratitude also shifts your perspective. When you make the decision to thank God despite difficulties, you begin to notice blessings you may have overlooked. You begin to see the small mercies in everyday life, the warmth of the sun, the breath in your lungs, the support of loved ones, the lessons hidden in your challenges. These are not minor things. They are signs of a God who is present, a God who cares, a God who is faithful even when your path is unclear. By choosing gratitude, you teach your mind and your heart to focus on abundance rather than lack, on hope rather than despair, on faith rather than fear. Gratitude as a choice is not always easy. It requires discipline. It requires reminding yourself daily, sometimes moment by moment, that your response to life is more important than the life you respond to. It means refusing to be a victim of circumstance and instead embracing the power of thankfulness as a weapon against negativity, doubt, and hopelessness. Each time you make that choice, you strengthen your spirit, sharpen your faith, and grow in resilience. It becomes a habit, a rhythm, a way of living that empowers you to face anything with courage and confidence. When you embrace gratitude as a choice rather than a condition, you open the door to transformation. You begin to see life not as a series of random events, but as a divine journey filled with purpose and meaning. You begin to understand that the power of thankfulness is greater than any challenge, stronger than any trial, and more enduring than any sorrow. Choosing gratitude is a declaration of faith, a testimony of hope, and a reflection of a heart aligned with God. Thanksgiving is not just a polite response or a casual habit. It is a spiritual key that unlocks power in your life. When you choose to give thanks, especially in situations that are challenging or confusing, you are tapping into a force greater than anything the world can offer. Many people underestimate the strength that comes from a grateful heart. They think power comes from wealth, influence, or knowledge, but true power comes from aligning your spirit with God through thanksgiving. When you thank God, you are acknowledging that He is in control, that He sees what you cannot see, and that His plan is greater than your understanding. This act of gratitude releases a supernatural strength that transforms your circumstances even before you see the change with your eyes. When you give thanks in every situation, you are creating a spiritual environment where miracles can occur. Gratitude opens the door for God's intervention. It is like a signal, a declaration to the universe and to the divine that says, I trust you, I honor you, I believe your goodness will prevail. And when you operate from that place of trust and honor, your life begins to shift. You start to notice opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. You begin to feel peace where before there was fear. You begin to receive clarity where before there was confusion. Thanksgiving is not passive. It is active faith in motion, a power that breaks through limitations, breaks down walls, and releases blessings that you cannot manufacture on your own. Many people fail to tap into this power because they wait for circumstances to improve before they give thanks. They say, I will thank God when I get what I want, or I will be grateful when life is easier. But this is the exact opposite of how spiritual power works. The moment you give thanks, regardless of what is happening, is the moment the power begins to flow. It is not the external situation that unlocks the power. It is your choice to express gratitude, your willingness to rise above fear, doubt, and frustration. Thanksgiving is a spiritual posture, a declaration that you are not defined by your current reality, but by your faith and trust in God's authority and provision. Thanksgiving also fuels your faith. Every time you thank God for what you have, you remind yourself of what He has already done for you, what He is doing, and what He is capable of doing. This remembrance strengthens your confidence in His promises. It is as if every thank you speak ignites a spark of divine energy within your soul, creating momentum for greater things to manifest. Gratitude opens your eyes to the unseen blessings and opportunities that are always present but often overlooked. It lifts the veil of despair, revealing hope, and invites you into a dimension where God's power works in ways beyond your comprehension. When you practice thanksgiving, you also influence the world around you. A grateful heart radiates peace, joy, and confidence. People are drawn to your spirit, and doors begin to open that seem permanently closed. The atmosphere changes around you, and even challenges begin to lose their grip on your life. Spiritual power flows not only to you, but through you, touching others, inspiring them, and amplifying the effect of your gratitude. True thanksgiving transforms you from the inside out. It strengthens your faith, heightens your spiritual awareness, and releases a power that cannot be hindered by circumstance. The simple act of giving thanks in every situation is a declaration that God's power is at work, that your faith is unshakable, and that your life is under divine guidance. It is the gateway to miracles, the anchor in storms, and the force that propels you forward when everything seems impossible. Many people make the mistake of focusing only on the blessings they receive while neglecting the one who provides them. It is easy to admire the gift and forget the giver, to celebrate the harvest while forgetting the sower, to rejoice in the results while overlooking the source. But true faith calls us to a higher perspective. Gratitude is not just about counting the things you have. It is about recognizing the hand that made them possible. When you focus on the giver rather than just the gifts, you step into a deeper level of spiritual awareness and power. You are no longer limited by circumstance or distracted by what the world offers. You are anchored in the eternal, unchanging presence of God, whose goodness surpasses all understanding. The problem with only appreciating the gifts is that they are temporary and can fade. Wealth can disappear, success can shift, health can falter, and relationships can change. But when your gratitude is directed toward the giver, you are expressing faith in a source that never changes, a presence that never abandons, and a power that never diminishes. Focusing on God Himself strengthens your trust and builds a foundation that no storm can shake. It shifts your perspective from what you have or do not have to who God is. And that is where true peace, joy, and security are found. When you acknowledge the giver, you also cultivate humility. You recognize that nothing you possess is solely your own, that every good thing comes from a divine hand. This mindset prevents pride, arrogance, and entitlement, which can cloud judgment and disrupt relationships. Humility allows your heart to remain teachable, your spirit to remain pliable, and your life to remain aligned with divine purpose. Gratitude toward the giver transforms not only your spiritual life, but also your character. It produces integrity, generosity, and a willingness to share blessings with others, reflecting the nature of God in your actions. Focusing on the giver also strengthens your faith in times of uncertainty. When challenges arise and the gifts seem to vanish, it is your relationship with the giver that sustains you. Your trust is not tied to what you can see, touch, or hold. It is rooted in a divine presence that works behind the scenes, orchestrating events for your good and purpose. This perspective empowers you to remain steadfast, patient, and hopeful even when life is unpredictable. It reminds you that God's wisdom and timing are perfect, and that every blessing, seen or unseen, comes through a loving and purposeful hand. Moreover, gratitude directed at the giver deepens intimacy with God. It is an acknowledgement that your life is connected to something greater, that your heart resonates with a divine rhythm, and that your spirit is nourished by relationship rather than circumstance. This intimacy fosters a sense of belonging, security and joy that no earthly possession can provide. It allows you to walk through life with confidence, knowing that the source of all provision is constant, faithful, and attentive to your needs. When you consistently focus on the giver rather than the gifts, your life begins to reflect spiritual maturity. You begin to respond with trust instead of anxiety, with patience instead of frustration, with hope instead of fear. Your gratitude becomes a force that shapes your actions, strengthens your decisions, and influences those around you. People notice the difference in a life anchored in the giver. It radiates stability, peace, and confidence even in the midst of challenges. In essence, true gratitude is not about what you have, but about who sustains you. By turning your attention to the giver, you align yourself with a power that is eternal, unfailing, and all-encompassing. You move beyond the limitations of material blessings and step into a spiritual reality where faith, trust, and thanksgiving create a life filled with purpose, joy, and divine favor. Life will never be without trials. There will always be challenges, setbacks, and obstacles that test your faith, your patience, and your perseverance. Yet, it is precisely in these moments of difficulty that gratitude has the power to transform not only your perspective, but also the very trials themselves. When you approach life with a thankful heart, even in the midst of pain, you shift the energy of the situation. You no longer see challenges as enemies to defeat, but as teachers sent to strengthen you, to mold your character, and to prepare you for greater victories. A heart of thanksgiving does not deny the reality of suffering, but it refuses to be imprisoned by it. It chooses to see purpose, hope, and opportunity where others see only despair. Gratitude in the middle of trials is an act of courage. It is a decision to rise above fear, frustration, and disappointment. It is a declaration that no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how confusing the circumstance, you trust that God is at work. When you give thanks in hardship, you are acknowledging that there is a divine purpose beyond what you can see. You are saying, I may not understand now, but I believe that this season has meaning. I believe that this challenge is shaping me into the person I am meant to become. That kind of faith expressed through gratitude releases a power that transforms trials into stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Every difficulty holds a lesson, a hidden blessing, and an opportunity for growth. When you embrace a thankful heart, you begin to recognize these hidden gifts. Pain teaches resilience. Failure teaches humility and perseverance. Setbacks teach strategy and patience. Disappointments teach gratitude for the small victories that often go unnoticed. And when you intentionally give thanks for these lessons, you are actively participating in your own transformation. You are shifting your focus from what is lost to what is gained, from what hurts to what builds, and from what is temporary to what is eternal. A thankful heart also changes the way you experience suffering. Instead of being overwhelmed, you begin to approach challenges with hope and confidence. You are able to navigate difficult situations with clarity and composure because gratitude keeps your mind anchored in faith rather than fear. It allows you to see beyond the immediate struggle and to anticipate the victory that is coming. The power of thanksgiving transforms your trials into platforms for testimony, moments that will later inspire others, and opportunities to witness the faithfulness of God in ways that are visible and undeniable. Moreover, when gratitude becomes your response to adversity, it reshapes your character. It teaches patience when the road is long. It fosters humility when circumstances are beyond your control. It cultivates perseverance when every step feels heavy. A life marked by thanksgiving and trials becomes a life of strength, resilience, and spiritual maturity. The challenges do not disappear, but your ability to endure, to learn, and to grow through them increases exponentially. Trials will come, storms will rage, and obstacles will appear in your path, but a heart of gratitude transforms the entire experience. What once seemed unbearable becomes bearable. What once seemed like defeat becomes a lesson for victory. What once felt like a setback becomes a setup for greater blessings. By giving thanks in the midst of trials, you participate in a spiritual alchemy that turns pain into power, struggles into strength, and difficulty into divine opportunity. In the end, gratitude does not make life perfect, but it makes the journey purposeful. It transforms the trials that come your way into opportunities for growth, faith, and testimony. A thankful heart sees what others miss, hears what others cannot hear, and experiences what others cannot feel. It transforms the ordinary into extraordinary and the painful into powerful. Gratitude has the remarkable power to shift the way you see everything around you. Life is full of circumstances that can cloud your vision, trials, disappointments, unmet expectations, and challenges that seem overwhelming. When you focus solely on the difficulties, your mind becomes consumed with worry, fear, and frustration. But when you cultivate a heart of gratitude, your perspective changes. Gratitude allows you to see beyond the immediate problem and recognize the blessings that are already present in your life. It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from despair to hope, from what is missing to what is available. It transforms your lens, allowing you to experience life through the eyes of faith rather than fear. When you give thanks, even in the middle of hardship, you begin to notice the small but significant things that often go overlooked. A warm meal, a safe home, a loving family, the breath in your lungs, the opportunities to grow, and even the lessons in pain become sources of joy and hope. Gratitude doesn't pretend that problems don't exist. It simply allows you to see that they are not the entirety of your story. You begin to recognize that every challenge carries a hidden lesson and that every difficulty has a purpose. By shifting your focus in this way, you change the way your heart responds to life. Instead of dwelling on what is lacking, you begin to celebrate what is present and possible. Perspective shapes reality. The way you interpret your circumstances determines how you feel, how you act, and what you attract into your life. When you focus on what you do not have, negativity grows and your spirit feels heavy. But when you give thanks and recognize the blessings, your heart becomes lighter, your mind clearer, and your spirit empowered. Gratitude creates a mental and spiritual shift that allows you to approach challenges with confidence rather than fear, with hope rather than despair, and with faith rather than frustration. It is a transformative lens through which the ordinary can become extraordinary and the mundane can become miraculous. Shifting perspective through gratitude also strengthens your resilience. Life will always have trials, but your response to them determines the outcome. When you choose to see the blessings even in the struggle, you refuse to be defeated by circumstances. You gain the ability to rise above setbacks and find solutions where others see only obstacles. Gratitude trains your mind to focus on possibilities rather than limitations, to focus on hope rather than fear, and to focus on growth rather than defeat. Every time you give thanks, you reinforce a mindset that is anchored in faith, vision, and purpose. Moreover, gratitude shifts perspective by reminding you of God's faithfulness and the bigger picture. Life is not just about the immediate moment, it is about the journey, the lessons, and the divine plan that unfolds beyond what you can see. By giving thanks, you acknowledge that there is a greater force at work in your life, that every challenge has meaning, and that every blessing is part of a larger story. This awareness helps you remain patient, hopeful, and confident, even when the road is long or uncertain. A heart of gratitude transforms not just how you see life, but how you live it. It changes your relationships, your decisions, and the energy you bring to every situation. When your perspective shifts from lack to abundance, fear to faith, and frustration to hope, you begin to attract more of what you are thankful for. Gratitude becomes a catalyst for growth, joy, and divine favor. Ultimately, gratitude is more than a feeling. It is a choice that shapes your perception and your reality. By giving thanks in every situation, you train your mind to see blessings where others see only obstacles. You cultivate a heart that celebrates life in every season. You unlock the power to experience hope, joy, and peace even in the midst of challenges. Through gratitude, your perspective transforms, and with it, your entire life begins to change. Thanksgiving is not meant to be a momentary expression or a fleeting thought. It is meant to be a lifestyle, a way of living that shapes your every action, your every word, and your every decision. Too often, people limit gratitude to special occasions or specific moments, saying thank you only when something goes right or when a blessing is obvious. But true thanksgiving is continuous, persistent, and unwavering. It is a posture of the heart, a mindset that refuses to be swayed by circumstance. When you make gratitude your lifestyle, you create a rhythm for your life that draws you closer to God, strengthens your spirit, and transforms the way you experience every day. A life of consistent thanksgiving begins with intentionality. It requires a conscious decision to recognize the hand of God in every detail of your life. It is easy to give thanks for the big blessings, the promotion, the new home, the health restored, but a lifestyle of gratitude sees God's presence in the small, everyday moments as well. The smile of a child, the kindness of a stranger, the ability to breathe, to walk, to speak, to dream, these are all reasons to give thanks. When gratitude becomes a habit, you are training your mind and spirit to remain focused on abundance rather than lack, on hope rather than fear, and on faith rather than frustration. It becomes a rhythm that aligns your life with divine purpose. Living a lifestyle of thanksgiving also strengthens your resilience in the face of challenges. Life will always have difficulties, but gratitude as a daily practice changes how you respond to them. When thankfulness is part of your everyday life, you no longer approach trials as insurmountable obstacles. Instead, you see them as temporary challenges, opportunities for growth, and steps on the path to greater things. The act of consistently giving thanks fortifies your spirit, reminding you that no circumstance can diminish the faithfulness of God or the power of a grateful heart. It allows you to face adversity with courage, patience, and confidence, knowing that every season, good or bad, is part of a greater plan. A lifestyle of gratitude also transforms your relationships. When your heart is rooted in thankfulness, you approach others with humility, kindness, and generosity. You notice the contributions of others, appreciate their efforts, and respond with encouragement rather than criticism. This attitude of gratitude creates an atmosphere of positivity and mutual respect, drawing people toward you and fostering connections that uplift and inspire. Your life becomes a testimony demonstrating the power of a heart that consistently chooses to honor God and recognize the blessings around it. Moreover, thanksgiving as a lifestyle deepens intimacy with God. When gratitude becomes second nature, your relationship with the divine moves beyond formalities into a daily rhythm of trust, love, and awareness. It is no longer about asking for blessings, but about acknowledging God's ongoing presence and faithfulness. A lifestyle of gratitude positions your spirit to experience joy and peace that surpass understanding, regardless of external circumstances. It opens your eyes to the spiritual richness that exists all around you and reminds you that life itself is a gift. When you live with a heart of continuous thanksgiving, it affects every part of your life. Your thoughts, words, and actions are shaped by a perspective rooted in faith. Your decisions are guided by a recognition of divine purpose, and your spirit remains strong even when storms arise. Gratitude becomes the lens through which you view life, coloring every moment with hope, joy, and confidence. It transforms ordinary days into sacred opportunities and ordinary experiences into lessons of faith and growth. Ultimately, thanksgiving as a lifestyle is not just an act, it is an identity. It is who you become. When gratitude permeates your life, you walk with a confidence that cannot be shaken, a joy that cannot be stolen, and a faith that cannot be defeated. It is the key to spiritual maturity, emotional resilience, and lasting peace. A life lived in constant thanksgiving honors God, empowers the